The arduous task of figuring out the 50 richest on Capitol Hill falls to the hardworking staff over at Roll Call. Christina Bellantoni, she's the bigwig over there, editor-in-chief, and joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning,
Good
Christina.
morning. Thanks for having me.
So this is quite a task you guys undertake, and these are all public records that you go through to figure out who's got all the money in Congress?
Exactly. So members of Congress are required to file what's called a financial disclosure form, and it's pretty simple, and there are certain things that they are required to do, but not very specific. So they need to give a mutual fund, and they can give a range, let's say, of $1 million to $50 million, right? So they could be that rich or just much more rich. And so what we do is we data enter every single asset that every member lists on their form, all 541 representatives, senators, and delegates. And then we calculate their liabilities, and we subtract that, and that gives us a minimum net worth. And so that's what we do to come up with 50 richest members, and we're actually, by the end of the year, going to be coming up with a ranking of all 541. Darrell Issa is indeed the number one richest member this year. He's got more than $350 million net worth.
Christine, I know a lot of people know that he's got a bunch of dough, but I don't think everyone knows where he made that money.
I'm not sure I know.
He's an inventor.
Yeah, so he's he's a California Republican, and he is basically somebody who started an alarm company. You might have heard of the Viper.
Yeah.
Car alarms. So that's how he and his
No kidding. Is that right? I don't know how I didn't know that.
In fact, I heard that the thing that there's like a vocal response that says "back away from the car, back away from the car," and that's his voice.
Yep. That's right. That's a little-known fact. And, he's also made smart investments, and it's a lot of, real estate holdings and trusts and things like that. And you can sort our data. You can find this at rollcall.com. There's an interactive tool where you basically can see, if somebody has spouse-held assets, and you can see how that is. You can see whether it's held in investments or trusts. It really does give you a sense of just sort of what these people are about. And one of the things we try to do is not just say, here's how they got rich, because then it'd be boring and be pretty similar every year. We try to get at what's different. So you had Kurt Clausen is an investor in the Italian soccer team. One of the newest members of Congress, won a special election this year. Jared Polis has an investment in a bunch of Japanese retirement homes. And, the way the ranges work, you have Jay Rockefeller as number 5 richest person on the list. Well, he could have $800 billion, but you'd never know because there's no top end of the range.
All right, let me ask you this question. I mean, this is where I'm at. I don't care if somebody goes out and makes a lot of money and then decides that they want to be a member of Congress. More power to them, no issue with that. But what about the people who come in relatively, with modest means to Congress, and then over time, while they're elected officials, they become millionaires?
Yeah, that definitely also happens. It's less frequent, though. People come, if they have means, they're off and running, right? It helps to have means when you are running for office. And then you also tend to not have that many expenses, right? You have a decent salary as a member of Congress, and you have probably a mortgage and maybe a home in both Washington and your home state, and you're just accumulating wealth. A lot of people are collecting still, they were state lawmakers. They're collecting state government pensions. They're investing back home. We saw that a lot of them have municipal bonds for their state and the town that they represent.
Christine, this is Susan Friccio. Good to talk to you.
Hi.
You look at this incredible collection of wealth we have here. I'm just going down this list, and wow, these guys, so many of these lawmakers are really, really wealthy. What does this say about politics and the idea that, people who have a lot of money have a much easier time getting elected to Congress? Because let's face it, you need a lot of money these days to win an election, even at the district level for these regional races.
Sure, it makes things easier. I mean, you sort of have somebody like former Senator Herb Kohl. He used to always say, he was super rich from the Kohl family, businesses. And he used to always say that, look, nobody's going to be able to buy me. I've got all the wealth I want. And so in some ways, look at the Bob McDonnell and Maureen McDonnell situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were struggling financially, which possibly could have made them more susceptible to what they're, were found guilty of doing with corruption. But then there's the flip side. I think that this list reveals quite a bit about the demographics of Congress and how they're changing. We also do the 10 poorest members.
Yeah.
But
who's on that list?
we've got Debbie Wasserman Schultz is probably the most interesting person on that list. And in some ways, the disclosure rules make this a little goofy. You can read this story at rollcall.com to sort of get a sense of, well, if you have to list the mortgage, but it's still considered a liability because you don't have to list you've paid it off.
Sure.
So that's a little goofy. But what it does reveal, people like somebody, Kirsten Sinema, for example, when we reveal the full 541 ranking after it's done through fact-checking, you'll see that younger, more diverse members of Congress, a lot of them don't have a lot of assets. They don't have a lot of wealth. They still have student loans they're paying off. So it really is reflective of how Congress is changing. By the way, every person on the 50 richest list, white.
Every single person. All right.
Yeah.
And what's the party breakdown of the top 50?
20 Democrats and 30 Republicans.
All right. And of the 10, though, of the top 10, the first two are Republicans, Darrell Issa and Michael McCall of Texas. The other 8 on the top 10 are all Democrats.
Yeah,
we got John Delaney, Jay Rockefeller, Mark Warner, Nancy Pelosi, Jared Polis, Richard Blumenthal, Scott Peters, and Dianne Feinstein. That rounds out the top 10.
I thought Peters was a Republican.
Oh, is he?
I don't have that right in front of me.
I'll look at that. All right.
Yeah, so again, 20 Democrats on the whole 50, and then 30.
Excellent. Christina Bellantoni, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Good stuff.
And again, that's over at rollcall.com if you want to see this. Thanks for joining.